Welcome to a new episode of New Cool, the cool wide flank show, where the hosts each share a topic that is new and or cool to one of us, and or new and or cool to both of us. From the
That's
world.
true.
It's very true. And all these topics are they're from the world of play. They're gaming adjacent, gaming centric, gaming in the broad sense of the word, chess, soccer, Mario. What others? Name some, Alon. Others?
Riven.
Missed. So admin stuff, we're just going to get that right out of the way. If you're feeling generous, please sign up for the Wide Flank Patreon to fund the show. If you're feeling lonely, please join the Wide Flank Discord to chat and play along with our game clubs. And if you're feeling brave, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. But setting aside all of that, please tell a friend about the show.
I want to just throw in there, I'm not sure the exact release schedule, but I think it'll be after this comes out. Soon after this comes out, we're going to do a Patreon episode where we kind of explain the shape of our Patreon to come, and it's going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be cool. So I hope to see you there.
You sort of sprung this on me.
Well, I forgot about like the admin stuff, and then I was like, oh, Patreon. Oh, shit, we're doing different stuff now. Yeah.
So if you sign up for the Patreon, you'll get that mysterious thing that Alon just said.
Yeah, it's a mysterious for now because we're not going there.
Yeah, you'll have to be a benefactor and etc. But we're trying something out, and you're gonna find out quite soon.
Very soon.
You're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it,
listener. I'm Sean, and this is Alon. What's up, Alon?
What's up, Sean?
How are you feeling about your topic this week?
Comfortable.
Comfortable?
Yeah. How about you with yours?
I'm feeling a wide variety of emotions.
For those not seeing the behind the scenes material that will probably never be released, we just went through 5 minutes of blooper reel of Sean trying to intro the episode, and I think there's a little bit of chaotic energy in the air.
I'm feeling a little wiggy.
Wiggy. That's like a Buffy word.
Wiggy?
To me.
Say,
yeah.
Ooh, I don't want to... Interesting that you would reference Buffy.
Oh,
I'm not trying to tip my hand because you're up. I'm not trying to tip my hand. But no, you're up first this week. So what's your topic, brother?
My topic is Backgammon.
Oh,
very comfy.
Yeah,
game I played a lot growing up. I think my uncle and or my brothers taught me how to play. I feel like we always had a board around the house. I don't even really remember playing like instances of playing. I just remember kind of always knowing how to play and playing with different people and against different people.
So my first question of curiosity was going to be like, do you remember a time where you didn't know how to play the game and then learned it?
I really don't.
You really don't.
So which means I must have been really young when I learned to play. And
sure.
I mean, part of the reason why I think it's like an interesting game to talk about, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is just that ease of entry point. I don't know. Are you familiar with Backgammon? Do you know how to play and stuff?
I know Backgammon well. Yeah. Fun game.
Okay.
Good game.
I think that it looks really appealing. It's hard because I have always known how to play it, but I think it looks appealing and it's relatively easy entry point to just know the sort of basics of how to play. But it has like really deep strategy, which is kind of like that, safe space that I like being in.
So you're describing your safe space as deep strategy?
No, in between, like it's like easy to learn but complex,
hard to master.
Sure. Yeah, and I think I was kind of hoping that you weren't that familiar with Backgammon, so I could ask you if it looks like that kind of game. Does it look appealing or intimidating?
I'm okay. There's two pathways ahead of us. One of which I could say I'm not that familiar with Backgammon, but I'm also gonna go down the path of like, I think I know what you're talking about in terms of the game looking appealing. Because when I asked the question, did you ever not know how to play? It's because I could vividly remember like seeing the game board and being like, what is this? I want to learn how to play it. So I remember like
That's awesome.
I don't remember the moment of learning how to play backgammon, but I remember the feeling of wanting to learn.
Yeah.
And then like being able to play it and feeling cool.
Yeah, I was hoping for something along those lines because to me it always looked really appealing, and there's a really strong like tactile connection, and like the sound of like I mean it could be made of anything now, but like a sound of like a wooden pieces on a board or a wooden board and dice rolling on a wooden board, like it always sounded and looked really cool to me. And it's this ancient game that's like roughly 5,000 years old, which is really crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, really cool and really crazy. It's like at least a couple. It's one of those things. It's at least a couple thousand years old.
At least.
And then there's like versions of it in like every ancient civilization, really up to like 5,000 years old. Basically.
Slightly different versions of it?
Yeah, slightly different. I mean, there's like Parcheesi, which is an Indian game. And that is really similar. And India is where chess was invented too. So people are thinking like maybe they're just like the ancient game makers. And then there's like traveling from India, you know, and Persia and like China, Japan, all over the place. There's like similar ancestors to backgammon.
I don't mean to get distracted, but do you know where Mancala?
Yeah.
Do you know
God. What is that game again? I played it in elementary school.
Gems.
Yeah, the
little
gems. What is that game?
So this didn't come up in your research.
No, it didn't.
I was hoping off the top of your head you'd be like Mancalas from Paraguay.
I mean, that makes sort of sense, but I don't really remember how to play or what the goal is of that game.
Mancala is another iteration of what I'm bringing to this, of like, it's a game I always observed and was like, I want to learn how to play that, but never did. Like, I still don't know how to play Mancala.
Shit. Okay. Side note, we all got to play some Mancala in the Discord, dude. But it's you got to feel the gems in your hand, or are you really playing Mancala? You know what I'm saying?
Like seeing the sun refracting through the jewels.
That's what, anyway, now we're talking.
Backgammon.
Yeah, back to backgammon. So like I was saying, it's deceptively simple, easy to learn, difficult to master, low complexity, lots of depth. Does that kind of thing appeal to you, or does it feel like it's like too much planning ahead? Is it like intimidating, like a chess type of thing?
I feel like it's probably like, oh man, no, the chess comparison is what I was gonna go for. My gut was gonna say like chess is more intimidating, but like at the same time, it's different. Like the arrangement is what's intimidating. Like the arrangement of chess pieces feels orderly and like learnable in a way that backgammon, like it's got spikes. Like it's got spikes and circles and you don't know like how they even move. There's something about like a chessboard that's like the squares are the same colors as the pieces. So it's like, there's some movement here.
It feels more orderly or something like that.
Yeah, but your question wasn't what's the difference between backgammon and chess.
But it is. I was curious about like how those two kind of like how you like where you put them in your head. Sort of.
My gut says backgammon is a simpler game. Like it's a more accessible game.
Me too.
It's like more of a numbers game than like a fucking logic game.
Yeah, I'm there too. And for those who don't know how to play or what backgammon is, essentially it's like a race to move all your men, or checkers now they're usually called, off the board first. You roll dice and you move your pieces based on your roll. And you know, obviously it's more complex than that, but that's like the basics. And yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. A lot of when I was like reading about backgammon and chess and some other older games, a lot of people, like the chess truthers, are like, it's 100% skill, like backgammon's all luck, and like the backgammon truthers are like, luck is good and there's still a lot of skill, and there's like kind of that debate.
I have a dark anecdote of the last time I tried to play backgammon, because the last time I tried to play backgammon, I was like an adult thinking about game design, and I kept getting mad. Like I kept being like, this game is just all luck bullshit. Like I don't want to play this. Like it's just made up.
But
yeah, like that's
I mean, that is, again, what I was saying earlier with like my comfort zone is like I want luck and I want skill. I basically no games are all luck. I mean, that just doesn't exist. That's flipping a coin. And then rarely, if ever, there's a games that's 100% skill. I mean,
Logic and
maybe
skill.
chess, but like even the fact that you're playing against somebody else and they might mess up is basically luck. You know, there's still luck even in chess. And Backgammon, I just think, has a really appealing mix of like a more skilled player over time will probably win more games. I mean, certainly if you go to like the top tier best players in the world, they'll definitely win out over time. But like, I could beat them in a game, in like one game, but I couldn't beat them in a series. Yeah, just because there is luck. You're still rolling a dice, and I could just roll 3 extremely lucky rolls in a row and win, even though I'm like behind, which I love. You know, I love that there's like a little bit of there's like there are big swings in Backgammon.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna I don't want to go off track because I think I want to hear about the big swings in Backgammon, but I just want to say that it's like I do, you know, I think most games are some balance between like luck and specificity, like skill. Like whether the luck lives in the player's mind or in the design of the game. Like I just wanted to flag that as something that I think, that like, you know, in my anecdote, me getting frustrated about the luck of Backgammon was just like me in like more of an analytical mindset being like, wait a second.
But I played better. And I lost. That's not fair. And
that's like a gamer anger, you know, like it's not, I don't think it's a good thing. I think surrendering to chance, that's the good thing in this life.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that because I do think that like sort of familiarity and having played more games and maybe being a little more advanced in the game makes you less mad at getting unlucky.
It's like a broader time scale.
Because like I can clearly tell what's happening in a game by just looking at a board.
Cool.
And if I'm like in a very advantageous position and lose, I'm not like, fuck this stupid game. I'm like, I usually win that game. Like I played better and like usually win and let's play again, you know, and that was fun. And that's cool that you even had a chance as opposed to just being like, I don't know, chess is so war to me. And it's like you're cornered and fucking surrender, like
beat into submission.
Like literally.
Check. Mate.
I have like, 10 pieces to your 1 and I'm gonna corner you till you're dead. It's like, all right, relax.
And I'm just gonna tell the anecdote that it's like I was a camp counselor when I was a kid, and like when I was like 18, 19, and I played chess against like a real child, like a 9-year-old.
What are we talking? Okay, 9. Okay.
And the kid was like so clearly so much better than me at chess. Like midway through the game, I saw him just going like just like getting bored with me.
No etiquette.
Like, getting like upset. But it, like I think it speaks to the reality of how chess functions, where it's like there is a certain amount of like skill ratcheting in chess that maybe but we're not talking about chess. We're talking about backgammon and how
to me luck keeps the game interesting and skill sort of wins out in the end. So luck is almost this like short-term fun wild card thing that happens, that's like part of every game, but long-term skill wins. And that's why like in the high-level tournaments they play it to a number of points because there is a scoring system in backgammon. And this all is sort of leading to the doubling cube. And I don't know if you're familiar with the doubling cube. You're not familiar.
This is all leading to the doubling cube.
I mean, it's really important part of the game.
Of course.
So you're not familiar with the doubling cube.
I don't know if that sounds made up.
Are you familiar with Marvel Snap?
Let's say I am. Not really. I know it's developed by the lead person from Hearthstone.
But you haven't played.
I haven't played it. No.
So Marvel Snap stole snapping from Backgammon. I mean, he Ben Brode gives it credit to Backgammon. It's not like
Cool.
I'm making that up. But so you may have noticed when you played Backgammon in the past, there's this other cube that's not a dice.
I never know what to do with
goes
that.
2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64.
I always assumed that was like accidentally left in the game from like another game.
Right. So at the start of a game, the doubling cube is on 64, and you just kind of leave it to the side or in the middle bar of a backgammon board. And 64 in this, I don't know why they do it like this, but 64 basically means it's not in play. Now, at any point on any turn before you roll your dice, you can say, I want to double the stakes of this game. And then your opponent can say, let's fucking do it. They get the cube, or they concede and they lose a point.
They get the cube? What do you mean?
Meaning that the person, let's just say I accept your double. You can't redouble. If I want to redouble, I can, but you can't just keep doubling on me over and over again. Or that, wouldn't really be interesting, because you would be in an advantageous position every turn being like, want to double again, right?
Okay.
So instead, you ask me to double, I say, sure, I like my position. And then say, 5 turns later, I take a little bit of a lead or something like that. I can say, do you want to double again? And then you can accept it and get the cube, or you can concede and you'll lose double the amount of points because it's already been doubled.
And this is, I don't totally follow what you're saying, but what I will say is like this speaks to what you're trying to get at, which is that like a single game of backgammon exists in the context of like other games of backgammon. Is that part of it?
Yeah, so I'm talking about like usually it's a game. You can obviously just play it, 1v1 one game and have fun. It's a fun game to play. But if you're playing to a certain number of points, which is sort of more standard,
that's where the doubling
cube is, or gambling. People play it for money too, and then it's like double your money, which is, we're not going to get into that much. But so a standard game of backgammon that has like sort of a typical ending is worth 1 point. There are ways to win more emphatically, and it's 2 points or 3 points. That's called a gammon and a backgammon, but we don't have to get into those.
Okay.
But let's just start with the 1 point for a win, right? So we're playing. I say, do you want to double? You say yes. And then the game plays out normally. The winner of that game gets 2 points instead of 1 because it's been doubled. Do you understand that? The double cube is now on 2.
What lets you trigger, hey, I'm gonna double? And if the other person's like, I don't want to double,
then they
just
concede.
like, okay.
No. Then they concede. They lose the game. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, so somebody can just be like, why does someone get the authority to just be like, it's time to double or not? Like,
that's what I'm saying. So it's in like a neutral state before anyone raises the stakes to double it.
Okay.
Either person can do it
at any time
before their turn, before they roll the dice.
On their first round of the game,
before the game even starts, you can do
double.
You can do it.
Okay.
Yeah. And if the other person says no, they lose and you get a point. But if they say yes, now that game is worth 2 points. And it gives, so let's just say I do that, right? Before my first turn, I'm like, Sean, let's fucking double. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. Now you on your side of the board have the doubling cube on a 2.
Okay.
10 turns later, let's just say you're in a good position. You're like, hail on.
So
let's fucking go.
It creates this like drama, this cascade of drama, kind of. Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'm with you. I get it.
And that is where, when I mentioned before that this is a game of big swings of leads and control.
Thank you. Yes.
The doubling cube is like an essential part of the game. Because if the swings were too big and like the leads felt crazy, every turn was switching like huge leads, switching back and forth. Like I'm trying to think of an example of a game, but I can't really. Maybe like Overwatch sort of, or usually like one team kills the entire other team, and then the next fight, the team that
sure.
died kills the other team because they didn't use their ultimates or whatever, and it's kind of that.
Okay.
If it was a game like that, the doubling cube wouldn't work because it would just be back and forth. It would be like you double, now I'm in control, I double, then you double, then I double, and it would go every turn, right? And then there's other games where there are too few swings or very little change from turn to turn as to who's winning. Like, I think Monopoly is like a classic, like slow game. Like, right, you're just like very slowly losing or very slowly winning.
And it like spikes towards the end.
Yeah, and doubling cube wouldn't make sense in that either, right? Because it never feels like you would use it. Games are too long. It's not clear that I'm like winning or losing, and it's like, you know,
so there's a direct relationship between the doubling cube and like the status of the game.
Yes,
that's at play already, and it's like anteing. I don't know poker, but like
it is. It's like raising the stakes.
Like, I'm going all in.
It's like totally. If you imagine head-to-head poker, right?
Sure.
And you bet $5, I put in $5, and then say we're playing Hold'em, right? And then the cards show the the flop, right? You know, when they put 3 cards face up in the middle of the table.
I know what that is.
And that changes the probabilities, right? You might have 2 aces now, and I might have 2 kings now, or whatever. Doubling cube is similar in the sense that you can then be like, I'm raising the stakes. And I can either fold, right? And you win all the money that I've been in so far, or I can say, let's fucking go. The difference is in backgammon, everyone sees the board, right? There's perfect information.
Cool.
As opposed to poker. And once the person who raises the stakes can't raise them again, it has to be the other person in backgammon.
Okay.
So you know what I mean?
Well, it's like is that balanced in a way? Like, is that what the goal of that is?
Yeah.
Kind of?
So the person leading or in a seemingly advantageous position can't just every turn double. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I think
because that wouldn't be a game. Like there'd be no risk assessment of me accepting or declining the cube. It would sort of just be like, I guess I can't accept it because Sean's gonna double it every turn. So why would I ever accept?
So do you think like this doubling cube like is the core of the game, or is this just like a really interesting aspect of the game to you as like
I think it's interesting to me and to the like high level community of the game, and that's like, it's such a different, interesting wrinkle to backgammon that other maybe similar board games don't have.
It feels, I would, because like it's because the Monopoly comparison is well taken. That it's just like it's something that reflects the design of the game.
Yes,
but also is like it feels like more human than the game is. Like it feels like it's beholden to like hard to quantify things. It's not. The doubling isn't beholden to chance. Like doubling is like a very rigid, logic-oriented choice mechanism.
Right.
But like the person when they deploy it, or like how they feel about the fact that their opponent has deployed it, like it does become this way more like wiggly, living thing, as opposed to just like, well, I rolled this number, which means my red circles go here or here.
It's like, also a way to sort of accelerate games in a very appealing way. Like, let's just say I have a massive lead over you. There's no chance you win, or there's always a chance, but very little.
Right. Like that would ever happen.
Well, that's why I'm saying imagine. You got to use your imagination here. But I can say let's double, and you just say no. Let's just move on to the next game.
Okay.
Right, so the game just ends instantly because you say no. Let's just play another game.
It puts the game in sharp relief. Just like, what's actually going on here? Do we really need to play this effing thing? Well, because when you were talking about Overwatch, I kind of wanted to bring into it like I hear tell of MOBAs that people really don't like either League of Legends or Dota. I'm not sure which. Where it's like you can tell that 10 minutes into a game. I brought that up on. Did you bring this up? You taught me this
tournaments episode, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was saying that like tournaments working that way isn't great, and like since
Sure.
you know who's usually going to win. It's such a snowball-y game. Yeah.
Is that connected to what you're trying to describe with the chance cube, with the doubling cube?
I mean, yeah, in a way.
Like
I mean,
maybe.
the equivalent would be in the first 10 minutes, either team in a MOBA can say, let's double the stakes of this game. So this win is worth 2 wins as opposed to 1 win. And the team losing could just say, no, let's move on to the next game. And that's reasonable. Or they could say yes, and then they have control of the doubling cube from there on. It just adds so much strategy and so much I mean, there are like mathematical solutions of like, you shouldn't accept it in this position. You should accept in this position.
Sure,
but like, if you're
like,
just playing with friends, it's sort of like this really human, how do you feeling right now? Are you willing to double the stakes kind of moment? You
like
know?
we have programmed computers that are better than people at chess. Because as much as it feels like an impossible human emotional thing, it is like a systemized thing.
Right.
And like it sounds, but like, yeah, but I think I get what you're saying though, that it's like in like ordinary play for like normies, it is this sort of, it's a way to just like amplify the backgammon game. Or like, can you choose to just not deploy? Well, yeah, you have to choose to
you can
deploy.
just play
it.
casually.
So you just play a chill ass backgammon game.
No doubling cube, totally fine. It totally functions. It's still a great game. It's still a game that I love.
Yeah.
But if you're playing at a high level for points, or if you're playing for money, even $1 or 50 cents a game,
that then makes
the doubling cube makes it more interesting. All of a sudden, you could double. All of a sudden, this game's worth $8 instead of $1, and it's like, oh shit, this is a big ass game. The reason I brought up Marvel Snap, just to briefly talk about that, is there is a thing called snapping, and it's a cube that you get.
The developer literally took from Backgammon.
Yeah, literally. So like cubes are the in-game currency and competitive ranking in Marvel Snap. And so at any point, someone can like choose to double. And the cool thing about it, similar to poker, is you can bluff. Like you can have a bad hand because it's a card game. You could have a bad hand and be like, I'm snapping. And the other person might just concede.
Is it a card game without perfect information?
Yeah,
exactly. You said about Backgammon? Yeah.
Okay. There's no perfect information. So there is a bit of like bluffing introduced by their doubling system, which I think is kind of cool. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, are you sure your topic wasn't the doubling cube?
Well, it kind of is.
I mean, no, it's but it's because
Yeah,
because like I think it's like you started talking about backgammon, and it's like to the listener, like you either know what backgammon is. We like didn't really talk about the rules of backgammon on a basic level, but like I don't think we need to.
I told the basics of like how the game flows. Roll dice. I think people can imagine that, right?
Yeah. But no, the thing I'm getting from it that seems really cool is what was it? Piss. It was like. I mean, there's the short version, which is like the doubling cube as like injecting this other like flexible meta layer to the game in a way. Yeah. There was a more complicated response I had, but I lost it. So don't worry about it.
No problem. I have a lot written on the history, but I don't really think it's interesting for me to just like read some history of backgammon. But there is this
from
one
India.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, kind of. They don't really know, but it's a guess. But there was this great article I read called Taking the Mountain by Backgammon. I'll link to it. And it's more about like risk assessment and how people are bad at perceiving probabilities. Well, and so I'm just going to read the sort of like chunk here, and hopefully it's not too boring. But he said, if you want to understand how badly set up human beings are to think about probability and optionality, go to the App Store or Google Play, search for a backgammon app, and look at the comments. What you will see is a lot of people who believe that the app cheats. Nobody asks themselves questions like, why would anyone write an app that cheats at backgammon? But they're convinced that it does. The evidence being that time after time, the app seems to get exactly the dice roll that it needs in order to win, to destroy the opposing position, or to get out of a trap, or so on. there's actually a simple explanation for this, which is that people making these complaints are bad at backgammon.
Sure.
Because they're bad at backgammon,
and
they
they're
aren't.
not. So,
Yeah.
I
Go
just want to interrupt by saying, like, they didn't recognize that, like, they started losing 20 moves ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because they're bad at backgammon, they aren't able to see that in most of these cases, there were 3 or 4 other possible dice rolls which would have left them just as screwed.
Yeah.
And I
so
just
the
thought it was
probability
perfect.
goes up. Yeah.
Yeah, and
totally.
it's a game that's full of options given to you by the randomness of dice, which I do love. It's sort of like chess, but the way the pieces move is random every turn.
Sure.
Right?
Whoa.
So you roll dice,
Cool.
and all of a sudden I can move this piece 6 times, right? And or you roll dice, and this piece can only move 1 time, and it's like, so there is like that intimidation, I think, of people who are like trying to plan ahead and be, I'm Bobby Fischer, like big braining this 20 moves ahead.
Totally.
But then there's also just the like, well, you rolled shitty, and that completely changed your plan.
It completely cuts off like the possibility paths of like a bunch of different. Because I was gonna compare it to the mechanism in chess. That's like, when you like get really into the zone with chess, you start thinking like multiple moves ahead and like considering possible responses, and you're playing this like massive game in your mind.
Yeah.
But like the fact that that this game is dependent upon a fundamental chance item that can like disrupt that tree.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like, oh, the other player did something surprising. It's like the game did something surprising to both of us.
Both. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, God, they rolled double 6s again? What the fuck
like
is
the person
happening?
who rolled it might be thrilled or might be like, why did this happen? Like,
right.
it's
and
like,
now I'm losing, and now they're redoubling me, and it's like, fuck, and it gets really great in those moments. And there's a lot of like, with the big swings and the luck and the randomness, there's a lot of just like great moments I find game to game and backgammon, and that's why it's my topic.
It's a beautiful game. We should play some backgammon. We should play. You already said at the start, but like just running backgammon in the Discord. I'm sure there's like a Discord plugin that's literally just
okay. I'm like sourcing our millions of listeners, because I actually don't know what app to get or download, and they're all like $2.99. I'm like, well, which of these is good or fun or like feels good? And if someone could guide me on that, that would be really nice. But
thanks,
probably
listeners.
no one plays backgammon.
Sorry, finish your thought.
No, that's it.
The last thing I want to say about backgammon is I was talking to my mom on the phone the other day, and my dad finished his yoga session, and she was like, I'm gonna get off the phone. And I was like, what are you gonna do? And she's like, I think I'm just gonna go play some backgammon with your father. And I was
love that.
Oh,
love that.
Like that vision of my parents playing backgammon, living alone but playing backgammon with each other. Isn't that nice?
Love is love.
Love is back is gammon.
And there's this really obscure song that surely no one listens to, by the Australian Crawl. And it's called Reckless. And I was listening the other day, and the like sort of pre-chorus is, she don't like that kind of behavior. But the way he sings it, it sort of sounds like, she don't like that backgammon behavior. And I was just like riffing on that. And that's sort of where backgammon re-entered my psyche.
We can probably
shout out to that song.
As long as it's under 30 seconds, we can pipe it in.
I'll pipe it in.
That's how
I'll pipe in the
copyright
pre-chorus
works.
at least. Yeah, for sure.
Backgammon. You be the judge, listener. All right.
So Sean,
sounds yeah.
What's your topic, brother?
That was clean. Your topic was clean. Mine is
messy.
It's good. Mine's good. My topic is adaptation.
The movie?
That was the joke I had prepared. I'm not talking about Meryl Streep and Nicolas Cage. I'm not talking about Charlie Kaufman.
Okay.
A man twisted by games, playing games with light. No, my topic is adaptation. And as you were talking about doubling cubes and backgammon, stakes. I said before, Buffy, interesting. Stakes, interesting. I wanted when you were saying stakes in your segment to go, stakes, you say. but that felt a little selfish.
I would have been like, what are you talking about?
Steaks, huh? So on Valentine's Day, I watched Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire and was struck by how it plays with adaptation. Stick with me. Because that film is itself an adaptation of both. It's both an adaptation. Woo! This one's a spiral of a... Okay. Nosferatu is Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire is an adaptation of the film Nosferatu from 1922, which was itself a bootleg adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. But also Werner Herzog is referencing Bram Stoker's Dracula directly in his adaptation. So it's an adaptation of an adaptation while also adapting...
If I was gonna interject here and say, hey, look at that connection between our topics, that's why a lot of the history of the early backgammon is so fuzzy, because they uncover these things in like tombs 5,000 years old, and it's kind of like there's pieces and bones that they were probably rolling as dice, and the board kind of looks like backgammon.
It's like a version of a version of a version.
It's like we don't know if it's backgammon with the same rules, but it's what it is.
We're basically front loading my conclusion, but I'll say it at the end. Because adaptation is the word I'm saying for now, because I was watching a feature film, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just want to say that's right, vampires. We're back to vampires, the realm of Wide Flank. Welcome to Wide Flank, the vampire.
Immortal.
They're immortal, and that's why they keep coming back to our show.
Keep coming back.
So that's a reference to we recorded an episode about a game about vampires called Fledgling Manor. But also I'm going to reference another episode of Wide Flank, because last week we talked about Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And part of that conversation was trying to wrangle, like, what is it to adapt Indiana Jones? And I don't know if we nailed it. Like, I wasn't totally satisfied with my own feelings of how do you adapt a thing into another thing? Much less like how do the specificity of how do you adapt a film into a game? Like, what makes it
right?
So, but to get back on top, it's okay. So I want to ask of you and of the listener, how can we adapt anything? What makes a thing a thing? What makes a piece of media distinct? That's sort of what I'm thinking. And so I went on this journey to try and understand, and it's a playful journey, but also one where I was like, I had some serious thoughts, but also thought I could find the answers in the catacombs of gaming. I'm trying to both stick to my script, but also just follow my gut.
Yeah. That's podcasting, baby.
That's podcasting, baby. So we'll talk about Castlevania later, if at all. Castlevania is not what I'm talking about, but also it kind of is. So point is, this stuff, I'm clearly all over the place. So I tried to, in my exploration of this, I tried to narrow my anthropological focus. And so in preparation for this episode, I set out to play several tie-in games developed more or less to coincide with the release of Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. All right? The 1992 film.
Fuck yeah.
That
Sick.
Alon and I both love.
So good.
So I played some other Dracula games, but those are neither here nor there. Like, they don't really... It's too much. It's too much. Dracula is easy for me to talk about for a dozen reasons, but in this case, it's like it is a thing that's been adapted a lot of times to a lot of different mediums, including video games. Yeah, and maybe the conversation could be about like what is it about Dracula? But that's we sort of talked about that on the Fledgling Manor episode. It's kind of base stuff. It's just. Vampire
What
horny.
is it about Count Chocula that's just so goddamn appealing?
I can't stop eating the stuff. So I played some other Dracula games, but not the point. So where shall we begin? Initially, I don't know why I'm asking you hypothetically. I'm clearly guiding this ship, which you could call the I forget what the name of the boat is in Dracula. So I couldn't. I was okay. I'm gonna lay it out. There's 3 versions of Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis
The
Ford
game.
Coppola, the video game.
So they all came out not like after 92, I guess.
Like
Yeah,
between
okay.
92 and the latest one is 95.
Okay.
And like a bunch of them are like literally the same level design and like the same like, but whatever.
Is that because, I mean, this is sort of maybe a follow-up question, but is that because like another big Dracula game came out after 95 and then they started making games about that? Or like, were these games unsuccessful or something? Like, why is it,
I think these games were literally just like they were movie tie-in games.
Oh, so like
they were like cheap
funded
garbage
by the studio or whatever of Bram Stoker's Dracula. They're marketing. It's just marketing.
Yeah, it's like the studio. I tried to look into the development history of the games, but like couldn't really find anything.
Yeah,
but it's like probably
that's like almost proof that it's like marketing shit.
It was just the studio like paid to get the license because like everybody's trying to make some money.
Yeah.
So there's 3 versions that I'm going to talk about in detail. There's an MS-DOS version from like 1995. There's a Sega CD version, which I think is from like the years don't matter.
They matter to me. Please keep the years in.
The MS-DOS one came out way later, which like I think is just interesting. Like I don't understand why they like kept working on this proper. Like I think they just owned the rights, and so they kept just working with it. I don't know.
Sounds like bad project management.
Sure.
They're just like someone's just like, Sean, are you busy? I need you to work on the new, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I got this Bram Stoker's Dracula still I'm working on.
That's easy money, baby.
I've been working on that for 3 years. I got to grind. Nose to the grindstone, boss.
it's trust me on this one. So initially... So I started with the MS-DOS one because that was the one that caught my eye the most because it's a first-person game. It's a first-person exploration game for the PC.
What? Okay.
But I couldn't get it to, at least at first, I couldn't get it to run right. So I played a little bit of a different game called Dracula Unleashed, which I don't have anything to say about, but it's just as well that I couldn't get the MS-DOS version to work because here's a selection of the review of the MS-DOS version from Computer Gaming World issue 114.
I'm so excited.
Gamers looking for a tale that really delves into the vampire mythos should take a look at Viacom New Media's Dracula Unleashed CD-ROM. Less keenly interested gamers would be better off renting a campy vampire movie, dimming the lights in the computer room, and letting their imagination turn Nazis into ghouls in Wolfenstein 3D.
Amazing.
Which is like a really bizarre conclusion to draw about a piece of art.
But I love it. I mean, I love it. I love it.
Just like instead of playing this, just play a different game and think about vampires.
This way better game. Get in the mood and then play this way better game.
And point of fact, Dracula Unleashed is not like a way better game. It's like an FMV game that like it's fun.
Wolfenstein's a better game.
Wolfenstein is probably a better game in the conventional sense because it's the momentum. We could talk about Wolfenstein. We could talk about id. We could talk about speed. But also, I just wanted to read this other sentence from the review. Ahem. Although Dracula does require a Microsoft-compatible mouse to function properly, running the game with version 9.0 of Microsoft's mouse driver causes problems with firing weapons and selecting objects. Upgrading to the 9.01 version of the mouse driver will correct the problem.
Holy shit.
So I think what I'm trying to lay out here is just like video games ain't movies. They have different concerns.
Amazing.
And to that point, like to get genuinely back to the idea of it's like, how do you adapt anything? Like how is any game going to like evoke even similar feelings to like a different piece of art? Like it's why do it? Why do it?
It's hard enough to program a game and for fucking one thing and then port it to another thing. Why are we even we're trying to port cross media?
Sure.
It's fucking insane.
Like re-rendering. Yeah, no, it's there's like very obvious reasons to do it, right? It's like consumer facing, just like
Well, that's why I was saying marketing, right? It's like
yeah.
we have this we're a huge studio with a huge budget. Let's just hit everything, right? Make a
Sure.
fucking Dracula Barbie doll and a Dracula video game, and there's a Bram Stoker's Dracula pinball machine, and just like all this shit, everything
sick.
possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna play it on my phone as soon as we get off here.
You could turn this back on like Francis Ford Coppola's film itself and be like, why'd you make a movie of a book? And it's like, because we like Dracula, and Francis had ideas that he wanted to explore as an artist through this different medium. And like, this is not a film podcast, but it's like you and I have already had a conversation off mic about like how that movie functions and how it's like, it is like a very clear adaptation of Dracula, but it's also Francis Ford Coppola like wigging out in 1990.
Yeah.
Just exploring what he wants. And I'm not trying to, that's one of the potential conclusions. That's like the value of adaptation is to elevate the human beings making the work, because it's like a known template.
It's like a vessel for the creative artists to, apply themselves or something like that.
And that's like genuinely what I was thinking when I was watching the Werner Herzog film. I was like, oh, this is just like this man reckoning with like film and Germany and like and an old story. Like it's and I don't want to spoil the movie.
It's like participating with it and
in
applying
conversation
themselves. Yeah, conversation with it. Yeah. So tell me about this video game, though. I want to hear about the game.
Yeah. I mean, okay, the MS-DOS version, I finally got it to work in. Okay, I just want to say all these projects are led by Psygnosis, who would go on to develop Wipeout on the Sony PlayStation.
Very sick. Okay, yeah,
pretty cool, huh? That's the first time that's the first time you heard that factoid, right?
And it's very cool. Yeah.
They
made tons of games, right? Yeah.
Psygnosis, are you looking up their heritage?
On Moby Games, according to Moby Games, they made 185 games. So
and this is the part of the podcast where we're gonna read the name of every single one.
Hell no.
So I got the MS-DOS version of Bram Stoker's Dracula to work in a web browser, and we'll link to that in the show notes. You don't have to listen to me; you can just play the game. I also got a PDF of the instruction manual because I couldn't I couldn't tell what was going on in this game.
Can I interrupt again? I know I'm interrupting a little bit too much.
No, I like that you're interrupting because I'm all over the place.
I tried to play ABPA Backgammon, which is a backgammon video game sponsored by the American Backgammon Players Association. That's ABPA.
It's like a garbage version. It's like,
dude, it was a release game for the Intellivision.
Yo, cool. Wait, that's cool.
It's cool. And I was like, oh, sick. And I couldn't get it to work. I DM'd friend of the pod, John, and I don't know.
I DM'd one of the original developers to see if they could.
Maybe you could get it working, but it's really cool, and the cover art is really cool, and so just wanted to say that.
I suspect after going through, because to try to get this is dangerously close to like Xbox cloud streaming style podcasting,
but people like that, right?
I initially was trying, like, I downloaded a fucking ISO of the MS-DOS game, and I downloaded DOSBox, and I was all ready to go, and I couldn't get to work, and then I just typed into the computer, play MS-DOS Dracula online, and I found a website that like has like DOSBox baked into the website.
In browser. Like, we don't need to download these kinds of things anymore.
We're done.
It's like we're done with that shit.
So you could probably just type in like play Intellivision Backgammon online
in browser,
free browser, please.
Which is funny because that's what John would have done too. But anyway,
sometimes the simplest path is the Murphy's Law. I don't think that's what that is. It's one of the laws.
I think Murphy's is what can go wrong will go wrong. But one of them is like the simplest path is the most pog path or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Stifler's path is the most American pie. Tell me about the game.
The game,
Bram Stoker's
you walk
Dracula.
around and find keys.
Classic.
That's it. It's
That's
like
a classic video game.
no, when you shoot enemies, a chime plays and they go up to heaven.
Oh,
When you
cool.
shoot enemies and kill them, it goes da-ba-da-ba, like it just like plays a little song. And that's feedback. And you have a gun or a knife, and that's it. And I wrote a joke here that's Wolfenstein is base and is for children, whereas Bram Stoker's Dracula is a refined and exploratory experience.
Take that back.
Yeah. Because Wolfenstein is also an exploration game. Not the point. But this game, it's like it was a flat plain with trees everywhere, and you got to shoot guys and find keys. Like it's
Stone Cold classic.
It's actually the sense of immersion was like pretty nice, honestly, because there's like really moody music in the game. Like the music is actually pretty sick, and right now you're hearing the game over music from the Whoa! Right? Pretty cool.
Sick.
Yeah, so there's interesting music in the game. But I give it an adaptation ranking of D+.
Okay.
It didn't really
did it fail to adapt, or was it just not that good a game? Like can you give us a little bit about like what's your ranking?
My parameters of This is why I kept laughing in the pre-show because that my adaptation ranking isn't really based on any hard science. It's just sort of
that's the way we like it.
I think part of it is like, does this evoke the narrative of the original work? Does this evoke the vibe? I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit because I started drawing some conclusions of like what makes these games Dracula adaptations is like naming the player character Jonathan Harker. Like, does that make it Dracula? Like, no. I don't fucking think so. Does naming your player avatar Indiana Jones make it automatically Indiana Jones when you're just picking up biscotti and taking photos all the time because that's how you like to play the video game? You just happen to be Indiana Jones. I don't know why I'm mad. I'm not mad.
Yeah,
you
do sound a little mad. I'd like you to calm down.
I'm sorry. Hey. So I give this one a D+. Because it was
next game.
It was just kind of a mess. No, it wasn't a mess. It was like kind of interesting. Anyway, then I played the Sega CD version.
Okay.
Which is ostensibly a beat 'em up game, but like, no, it's not. I don't know what this game is. The player avatar sprites are photographs, like Mortal Kombat, you know?
Wow.
But they're not photographs of Keanu Reeves. But
damn it,
Keanu Reeves does come on screen and scream when you get a game over. So it's pretty.
I need to look this up, but keep going.
Yeah, and the game opens with some like low res footage of Gary Oldman going like and like picking up the cup of blood from the start of the film.
This is sick. Holy shit.
So yeah, Alon's looking at the game right now, and I'm going to describe it to the listener.
And some random website I'm on gave it a 2 out of 10.
Oh no, that's not a good score. You need to upgrade your drivers to it scrolls on a pre-rendered 3D background that like attempts to sync up to your avatar's movements, but like never really does.
Oh my god.
It's visually wild. It's not very fun to play. It's mostly punching birds. All birds, just all punching, but you can punch and kick, and you can do a backwards kick too, which is pretty cool.
It looks bad. It sort of looks like when a video game is in a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a fake game that's made for a movie. It looks
like a video game.
Oh, and like humans jumping up a thing. It's like, this is the worst game ever. Yeah.
And look, with this adaptation ranking, I actually know what I'm talking about because I gave this one an F. And I think I'm showing my true colors because as you were describing Backgammon, I started to get into my head about how it's like, oh yeah, Alon's the mechanics guy, and I'm the mushy narrative, like shit that real gamers don't care about guy. I love mechanics. Maybe they should. Maybe people like Street Fighter because it's tight and they're the world warriors. Huh?
True.
Am I right?
True.
Sorry.
Were any of these good?
No.
None of the games were good?
And I didn't really get any serious insight into like what makes these adaptations. Like the conclusions were pretty straightforward. Just like, oh, this is just like taking some like really basic aspects of tone and character names and like
Yeah.
setting. And like we could riff a little bit about how those elements can be inspiring enough. Like I will talk about how Castlevania doesn't adapt Dracula at all. And those are like the best video games.
They're so sick.
They're just
Yeah.
like tonally, like it's just the castle. Like, what if the castle was like all we
Yeah.
thought about? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, dude. But truly, this game actually like made me be like, wait, like fuck, like why adapt this? Like fuck this, because the game like it narratively frames Jonathan Harker as committed to destroying Dracula. At which point it was like, that is so clearly in the interest of a game design rather
Yeah.
than like anything resembling. And I'm not like
that's
a
final
Jonathan
boss.
Harker.
You're making a final boss in a fucking game, like in the most simple way possible.
Yeah, in a way. And like, this is where my, this is why I started running my mouth about how you love mechanics and I love narrative. Like, I love Dracula.
Yeah.
And like part of like what I love, it's not even part of what I love about Dracula. It's like there is like a certain baseline of like this. Oh man, I get so annoyed though when nerds are like get mad about like this isn't who Luke Skywalker is.
Yeah.
But
it does matter. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm taking
No,
you off
go,
track a
'cause
little
I'm
bit,
just-
but it does matter. As we just, heard, as you guys may have heard last week, we talked about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Mhm.
There are fucking 30 Indiana Jones games probably in the last
Yeah.
30 or 35 or 40 years. There's only like 2 or 3 that anyone has ever talked about, which to me
Sure.
probably means like probably pretty similar to this. It was just really shitty with kind of an Indiana Jones skin on it, and it was just a bad game.
It's
And
a marketing
only-
mechanism.
Which just means
yeah.
like it's hard. It's really hard to nail it.
And you can be optimistic about that.
Yeah,
You can be
yeah.
like, a lot of studios get a lot of this work for hire work,
Yeah.
and it like leads to them like sustaining people's careers and like
Yeah.
eventually making something that's like closer to like what
And they
people
have a
sneak in their
small
own
budget, and they have a short amount of
Yeah.
time, and there's totally reasons to make all these decisions. Yeah.
But I think if you're coming at it from a perspective of like, ooh boy, I can't wait to get some of that Dracula I love, like it becomes so good Lord. Like I'm kind of empathic because like the Luke Skywalker thing was specific. Nobody cares about Star Wars no more. But I remember when those Star Wars movies were coming out like 10 years ago, everybody was
Yeah.
like so mad about like how they ruined Luke Skywalker. And I remember just feeling like what? Like who cares? It's Mark Hamill. He's an actor. He can do what he wants. Like
Yeah.
what? Shut up. Like who cares?
Who cares?
But when I was playing this Sega CD version and it was like Jonathan Harker must kill Dracula, it's like that's kind of
Does
what the
he?
narrative is, but like not really. He's more like an everyman who's anyhow.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to geek
Yeah.
out here.
Yeah.
The final version I played was the Super Nintendo version, and
Okay.
I played it in bed as I was falling asleep. It was a platformer.
Bummer.
Big whoop.
Big whoop.
It was kind of nice, like the animation,
Man,
and I give that one a C minus.
this like makes me want to play Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, because
Oh,
that's
the
the one that
LucasArts
people
game,
always
yeah.
talk about as like,
Mhm.
this is the Indiana Jones game, the only one that really nailed it, that's actually good. Feels
yeah.
like indie, feels good, feels like its own original story and complete and stuff like that. And
Sure.
but maybe it's more interesting to listen to if we just like did a follow-up episode on the game club and we're like, let's just play 20 Indiana Jones games for 20 minutes each and just see like
Sure.
what the hell's going on here.
In
What are they
Indiana
doing?
Jones. Well, because like
Indiana
I still
Jones
don't feel.
marathon.
And this is like part of why I was not annoyed, but sort of like laughing about my topic, because I was like, by playing these games, I did not discover anything closer to the truth of like what makes a good adaptation.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's
Yeah.
just like you play a good one and you're able to point at what's good
Right,
about
right,
it. Because it's
right.
like we're adults, we can like critically navigate like what our own ideas about adaptation
And we've
are.
played Castlevania, and like, sure, it's not the exact story. Neither is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Neither is Indiana Jones whatever it's called, Fate of Atlantis.
Fate of Atlantis.
Those
yeah.
aren't true to the Indiana Jones movies either. It's just
But
the
they
same
capture something a little more
world,
ineffable,
which I feel like Castlevania captures, right? Like,
sure, yeah,
right. Like it captures the vibe and stuff. Yeah.
And look, I was going to say this earlier in the episode, but I was like, I need to get on the Dracula and off of the Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones isn't even Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is a reflection of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg's shared love of pulp adventure stories from like the 30s.
Right.
So it's like, it doesn't come from like, how did Indiana Jones actually feel like a pulp adventure story? Like, because of this, and this technical thing. I think the actual answer is like, because people made it. And people communicate through art and games. And so if you're communicating honestly, or like at least trying, you can, and you're a person playing the thing, you can feel it. I don't know. So my conclusion.
Your conclusion is that the Bram Stoker Dracula games suck.
Yeah. Even though they're all terrible, they're all different. That each of them is an interpretation of an interpretation. So for each of them, we can ask the question, like, what made them Dracula adaptations? The unanswerable thing, the thing while I'm getting all heated is just like, where's the humanity in these games? I think that's the thing that's messing me up. Like, even Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, like, the humanity is like pretty, I can parse that in that game. Like, there's clearly like, oh, there's some lineage with this studio. There's some lineage with the staff that's like, oh yeah, these are the types of things they like to explore anyway. And an even more high-minded conclusion is, I think, like, adaptation, just because I'm not sure if this was about games, you know? Like,
it's just game adjacent. What did we say in the original document about Nuclear? It's like the layers, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of the layers.
Layer 4. Well, layer 4 in the original document was computers.
Yeah.
Like Control-Alt-Delete was floated as a potential topic.
It's so funny looking back at our old docs, and the top rule in the original New Cool doc is no talking about Brat Summer.
I already made the joke to you, right? About like 2 months ago. I was like, oh, dude, I forgot about Brat Summer. Like, Brat Summer like left my mind entirely. And then I saw some Charlie XCX stuff and was like, oh yeah, Brat Summer. I thought Brat Summer would never end. And
there's there's probably no good adaptations of that to either. So
hey, that's true. But truly, the most direct connection to games I can make is that like adaptation is like kind of a transmutation of, or like there. What do you think no, this is too loaded. But it's like I'm
too heady for me to answer on the spot anyway. I think
but I haven't even said the word. I wanted to say this word way earlier in the episode. Iteration. Iteration is different from adaptation. And like when you're talking about backgammon and like, is it made of bones? Did it come from India? Like that more reflects iteration than like overt adaptation. So I think maybe adaptation reflects like human, like intention, like the intention of the person making it. Like, what do I want to take from Dracula? Oh, I've always loved how he sucks that blood, but I hate that he can't go outside during the day. So I'm going to give him skin that glistens. Twilight. So, you know, I think iteration and adaptation, there's something there, but
yeah, I'm interested in that. Yeah.
Is all art iterative? I also wrote, and then are all video games Dracula?
Also true. Do you have a favorite in mind just off the top of your head of like this book or movie or whatever turned into a video game? Like that's one of your favorite adaptations?
That's the question I had for you.
Beat you to it.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I do. Like I would have to think about it. I
feel like there's probably a few really good ones that we haven't like clocked as
thought about.
It's that like Pokemon, I guess.
No, Pokemon was a game first.
No way.
Because Game Freak was like a fanzine before they were a studio, so they just like loved video games.
Pokemon was a game first? No way. I don't think that's right.
I think. Well, It might have been that like I'm making shit
I'm
up.
not sure.
There's probably
It
a
might
pretty
be
clear
right.
history. If anything, it's like mid-development. They were like, oh, we've got something here. Let's start building it out into a media.
Yeah, it's hard to think
something.
of something I watched and then was like, oh my God, I want to play that game. And then it was fucking sick.
There's really easy like inverse adaptations to reference now because that's like such a well-trodden path.
That's
like,
a popular thing now. Yeah,
the Uwe Boll films that everyone's like, that movie, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, so bad, and now The Last of Us, so good? Question mark? Like, you know, but like actually, like I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I literally, maybe that's something to toss to the listeners. Like, what can you think of games that are strong adaptation? I like Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official video game, and that's like an adaptation of an adaptation of an adaptation. You know,
there's Lord of the Rings games that people like, I think, but I've never played them, and I probably won't.
Look, I'm gonna go with my gut and just say Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. You ever play that?
Is that the Super Nintendo one?
It's the GameCube one. It's like a it's like a pseudo. It's like a fighting game.
Oh,
and
no, I don't know that
great.
one.
You can pick up buildings,
and that sounds fucking amazing.
But it's but I don't know if that's like a beloved game. It's just a game I like that is Godzilla.
Right. Man, I can't really find anything, but there's probably some obvious ones we're missing. Please let us know in the comments. Please share this video and episode and whatever, and subscribe.
Well, I think it's the actual question is like, what is a game that like evokes the core components of a film or book or piece of music? And like, is that even possible? Or is in the process of adaptation, the work fundamentally changed in a way that's like, I don't know.
How about this? James Bond.
People love that. GoldenEye,
and the other one that came after GoldenEye, and there's probably
Nightfire.
What was it? Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark is an original IP developed by Rare.
Okay.
But
I don't know.
Hey, you're on. Even that though is like sort of it's like referencing Blade Runner and stuff. It's all the same stuff. There's a Blade Runner adventure game that people like. We're filling airtime.
There's
right
a
now,
Blues Brothers game for MS-DOS that that might hit. Now I'm just like looking at lists of games and I'm like, wow, they made a game out of that. I
want to show you the title screen of because here's my bonus section. All right,
bonus section.
Here's the other Dracula game adaptations I played, and we can play a MIDI version of something while I list this. I played an Atari Lynx game called Dracula the Undead. It was a point-and-click adventure game. I never figured out how to get out of Jonathan Harker's bedroom. I messed around in a ZX Spectrum adaptation of Werner Herzog's film, Nosferatu the Vampire. It was too hard to figure out what was happening. I just sort of walked around in an isometric perspective. There were spiders everywhere. I couldn't tell if they were hurting me. I have a note here that says, Castlevania, say whatever the hell you want.
True.
Because we could record an entire show about Castlevania.
We're not opening that box right now.
And then I want to leave the listeners with Master of Darkness for the Sega Master System. It's a pretty fun Castlevania-like.
Oh, love
like the old school Castlevania. It's like on that game I played, and I was like, this has nothing to do with Dracula, but it's just like pretty fun.
Love it. Thank you, everyone. Come join the Discord. Blah 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 blah.
Stay tuned for the Indiana Jones 20 game mega.
Oh my god! The marathon.
Inevitably,
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.